Good morning. How are you?
Fantastic. Deepti, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you. So, this is the very first in our series of interviews around making of business agility conference. So, we'll have to start from the very start. So, I want to understand from you who you are and why business agility, why this passion.
Business agility for me is a passion. It's something I've been doing for over 10 years now. And it came about when I was promoted or I joined the Australian Public Service and became a director there. And there's a saying in the public service, being promoted to your level of incompetence. And that's sort of what happened to me in there. I was good with people and I was good with the technology, but I wasn't necessarily a good manager or a good leader. There's a lot of elements around conflict and coordination and people and so forth that you need to know.
Yeah.
And I'd been doing agile software for the like 6 or 7 years before that. And I sort of had this, would this work in management as well as it would work in IT? And the short answer was yes, it did. So fast forward 10 years, and this has been something that I have been passionate about and trying to help others in this space. And so business agility for me has become, it's even gone beyond those initial foundation. It's now more of this is how every company in the world is going to work. And it's not just a matter of, oh, it's a new fancy way of working. It is literally a matter of survival. Organizations that do not have some awareness and approach to business agility will be outcompeted, and in fact are being outcompeted in the market. And we're seeing that with big companies and small companies all around the world.
So, do you mean to say that business agility is the next way of being? Just like, when we started with the agile wave, we used to say that agile is the next way of being. And if that is so, when you say business agility is the next way of being, I would still want some more understanding because, audience can vary and they probably still don't understand what is business agility. They, with a lot of difficulty, have been now able to relate with the whole agility, but business agility still is not perceived well. There is no clarity around it.
So is it a next way of being? Is it the next way of being? Yeah, I would say that's probably a fair description. It is the next way of working for companies all around the world. So let's rewind 30 years, right? 30 years, you're in a company, you're in IT division, right? Yeah. And your company is trying to be fast in the market because being fast in the market is always important. It always has been. There's nothing new to that. So where is the constraint to your organizational agility? Well, it was with your software teams. It would take 2-3 years to produce a product that in many cases nobody wanted. So this was a bit of a disaster. And so what did we do? Well, we invented Agile from 1986, the Agile Manifesto, 2001. And for a time it was good. And agility, the ability to be faster, the ability to be more adaptable and empowered increased. But then fast forward to maybe 10 years ago, right? There's a new constraining factor where we have an engine that can create change every 2 weeks, but there's another constraint, and let's call it deployment. Right? So we have this technology product, but we're still deploying every 3 months, every 6 months. So we invent DevOps, right? And other continuous integration and continuous deployment technologies. And this gives us a level of agility, a level of business agility in the way that the companies work. We can now create change every 2 weeks. We can deploy every, what's Amazon's statistic, 11.3 seconds. And then fast forward to today. And what do we have? We have a new constraint in our organizational agility. I've got 2-week change, 11-second deployment, and an 18-month budget process, a 3-month recruitment process. All of the downstream and upstream processes constrain an organization's ability to be agile, to have that concept of agility in its very core and very DNA. So business agility, and I should just say that was an IT example, but this applies to all domains, whether we're talking IT or not. That constraint, that constraining factor to agility, that's coming from somewhere else, finance, HR, PMO, and that's business agility, is making the organization agile. Not Scrum, not Kanban. The framework or the method is irrelevant, but the mindset of agility, the ability to be agile at an organizational level.
Okay, so now we have two more questions, which are coming from here. Question number one. So will it be correct to say that this whole concept of business agility is, because we are in IT industry, we are from software, it is what we are seeing from our, very basic of, very original of, very, something that had been close to us, the work that we have been doing. So we are seeing it from there. That's what we realized. Okay, we realized that, as much as we can do our work best, it will not be enough till the time all components of the organizations are not interwoven in such a way that they support each other's function. Will that be correct to say?
I don't think that's quite true, but there are diminishing returns. So if you're doing an agile transformation, capital A, you're applying Scrum or SAFe or less, doesn't matter.
Right.
And it's the more and more focus you put in that, you're going to see diminishing returns on the value and the agility that you get out of it. And organizations get frustrated at this point because they've spent so much time and money on this transformation and they're not seeing the results.
Yeah,
but the problem is, it's because they're being constrained by another part of the organization. Now, that sounds so simple, but the solution is incredibly complex because how do you get finance? How do you get the budgeting process or project management process or the governance process to align to an agile way of working and agility in the work that they do itself?
Right.
And if forget IT, for example, let's say we're talking marketing. If I'm marketing to be agile, if I want marketing to be able to be dynamic in the market, empowered teams, bring the decisions into the heart versus making them at the very top. All those things that Agile does very well. There's a complexity to that change, and that's a continuous change. So you're right in one way, right? Yes, this is continuous. This will never change. And in fact, that's actually an important thing to understand. Change is continuous.
Yeah.
It's not that you're changing to something. It's not that it's why I don't like the word transformation, because it's like a transformer, a car turning into a robot. It was a car, now it's a robot. Now it's a car, now it's a robot. That's not the transformation that we're trying to do. But we are continuously improving and changing. That concept of Kaizen, that concept of continuous improvement, that has to be fundamental. So yes, continuous change, always. But does it mean that an agile transformation, which would have an end, has to continue forever? No, because the specific expressions of change will stop. There will become a point when I can't apply Scrum anymore because the diminishing returns have reached like critical mass. So let's focus on another area. And where is that constraining factor? Focus in on that, and then let's try and change that area of the organization.
Okay, so now we are coming to the second point. This is where exactly I wanted to reach us. So when you are saying business agility, so we started from agile software development, as in not this conversation, but the whole agility. So we started from agile software development, and that's when we realized that just the software unit doing and trying and being agile will not suffice, and we need to have this agility coming from other units within the organization, other departments, and that's what do you call business agility?
That's an element of business agility. It's certainly a critical part of it. But when I said this was a complex domain, I was very serious. Structural agility. How do you form teams?
Right.
How leadership agility, what is the expression of a leader, a manager in an agile organization? Right? Enterprise agility, how does the value stream across multiple divisions fit together? And in fact, at a certain level of an organization, do you have divisions? What is that team structure? Do you go full teal and you have a network-based organization, or are you sticking with a hierarchy? In which case, how do you enable agility within the hierarchy? What's the culture and the mindset that are associated with those? So there's a lot of different elements and domains around business agility. And if it was simple, we wouldn't be having this conversation. We wouldn't be putting on the conference because it would be simple, but it's not.
So how do you plan to approach it? Because it's too complex and it has multi dimensions, and it's not one shoe fit everyone kind of thing. So I mean, even in software development, we still got resort to Scrum. And then when we talked about scaling, we have Safe, Less, Naxos, and all of that. How do you address business agility complex? How?
It's you put one foot in front of another. You get started. So what's the burning issue right now, right? What's causing your organization the most pain? Or conversely, right, what is the most benefit that you stand to gain? Right? Where in the organization is that constraining factor to agility? Where in the organization are the customers dissatisfied? Where in the organizations do you have institutional or systemic issues that need to be resolved? Right? Every organization is different, you're right, but that's the beauty of it. You just get started. You find a spot and you start pulling at those threads, right, and start to unravel the organizational bureaucracy and the organizational pain that currently exists. Once you keep pulling, and then soon, not very long, you will find the master thread, that thread that runs straight to the biggest constraint today. And then you work on that, and then you untangle that huge knot. But then there's another knot. Then there's another problem, another constraint. The journey, the change never ends. But right, you make it better every day, one step, one foot in front of another.
Right, beautiful. But then this looks like this is going to be a long journey. What is your response to the very regular question that every industry has, that how long will it take to achieve, the business agility? What is your response to that?
So two answers. One, it's the wrong question. Right? What is it worth is the right question. Right? And if it's not worth doing, don't do it. Not every organization, not every industry is going to go full business agile. Business agility does not apply. But I would challenge most of the listeners that that's becoming less true. Right? We're talking with energy companies around business agility, and we're talking grids.
Actually, that's what I wanted to ask. Yeah, that is this you're focusing on IT industries, or you're also talking to? Okay.
Banking and finance is and if we talk about the Business Agility Conference, banking and finance were the biggest sector represented in attendance at the conference in New York. We're talking to energy organizations. How do they become agile, right? And not in Scrum. They're not talking Scrum. They're not talking Safe. They're talking agility, and they're talking agility at a grid level. Right? So engineering, right? R&D engineering, with the advent of things like 3D printers, desktop CNC mills, R&D and physical engineering techniques are able to become more agile. So once upon a time, I would say, if you're building a bridge, look, you're not going to be agile when you build a bridge. You've got to get it right first time. You're going to do the design. And once the concrete starts pouring, you can't, if you make a mistake, sure, out come the sledgehammers, but you can't afford to. So, but that's becoming, there are fewer and fewer cases where that's the case. So long story short, this is pretty much for every industry on the planet right now. And that's what's making it such an exciting time. Yes, the journey never ends. Yes, companies need to change. But you know what? That's always been true. right? There's nothing new about that.
Yeah.
It's all that's happened now is it's faster and a little bit more obvious.
So, but I know companies and the organizations which will come for, who will come asking solution, they would be anxious and they'll say, please tell me how much time it's going to take. Please tell me for how long should I have a certain consultant to, perform the transformation. But anyways,
Well,
yeah.
hang on. Let me just talk on that one for a second. That is, who said anything about consultants? Who said anything about
That was my next question to you.
paying money? Yes, change requires some level of investment, and some organizations will do that with an external partner. All right, but change comes from within. An organization, once is on the right path, should be changing themselves. Right? And change becomes part of the day-to-day DNA. And I'll give you another example. So I've done a lot of work in Asia, done a lot of work with Asian banks, and Asian banks historically have done a reasonable trade in international remittance. Right? I'm Australian, I'm in Singapore, I want to send money home, I go to my local bank and I send it via the bank. Right? Not anymore. Right? There are fintechs who have emerged in this space who do international remittance cheaper, faster, better service. And it doesn't take long for the viral effect of just conversations between human beings. Right? I try this new thing. So this is fantastic. I tell my colleagues, they tell their colleagues, they tell their friends. And within a year, the banks have lost an entire profitable revenue stream. So this change, if an organization doesn't have a continuous view of new products, new services, how are they going to meet the market, how are they going to change to be better, both in terms of how they work and what they do, then they'll be dead.
So even before I come to this point, how should they get started? How will they get help? I have another question, and which is related to the conversation we were having, the consultants and the framework. So how do you plan to help organizations? Will there be a proposed framework for business agility? Will there be training and certification? Because there is a plethora of such courses and frameworks there in the agile industry. Yeah. So how do you plan to approach it?
Yeah, the Business Agility Institute is an independent organization. We're an advocacy. We work with agile companies and companies who want to be agile. We are not a consultancy. We're not a training provider. Some of our members are, and we will work with them to ensure that the material and the content that they teach is best practice, which contains the latest research and the latest findings. We will be a clearinghouse for peer-reviewed content on business agility. But the industry and the community behind business agility needs to take a level of ownership of this as well. So one of the reasons we put on the conference, the Business Agility Conference, is to bring all these people together, bring them together to share their stories, to get them to learn from one another. And if we try and do it in any other way, if we were prescriptive and said, here's a framework, or here's a method, or here's a system, right, then we would fail. We would fail the community in a couple of ways.
Yeah.
First, because that won't work. Yeah. And second, because the people who do try and adopt that are going to be, there is no single framework or approach that answers everybody. Now, there are pieces of the puzzle. A bit of Scrum here, a bit of less here, a bit of servant leadership here, a bit of beyond budgeting over there, right? And there are practices and principles and frameworks and systems and methods that you can beg, borrow, and steal and apply that within your organization. But if you try to create a generic framework for everybody, you would fail because it's just not possible.
Yeah.
So that's not the direction we advise the industry to go.
So that's great, because that's the biggest challenge. So if you are doing, say, if you are not invited, to Scrum Alliance, if you are doing Scrum Alliance, then you have to do less, and all that becomes very complicated. Too much of restriction. So yes or no? So that means you are allowing different philosophies and ideologies to coexist within the institute.
Absolutely, it's everyone's got a piece of the puzzle, right? There are We're trying to avoid pure thought leaders, right? People who have sort of limited practical experience. So the stories that we share both at the conference and through the Business Agility body of knowledge are grounded in experience. I've done this, right? I've done it 3 times. This is my learning, right? This is what works. This is what doesn't, right? Rather than, I have an idea. Here's my latest theory. Here's my latest piece of thought leadership. Now, once you've, we will share all that material. We'll make it all available, but just show us where it's been done. Show us the evidence and the data behind how successful or unsuccessful that you have actually been.
Yeah. So when did this idea of conference come to you? When did you feel that I should have an institute, and and then when did you feel you should have a conference?
Well, the conference came first. So we started the Business Agility Conference in 2017. Actually, the idea was in 2016. And in your home country of India, I was sitting at Agile India in Bangalore, having non-alcoholic drinks with a fellow coach from Canada, and she and I were lamenting the quality of Agile conferences. They're good conferences, they're fun, they're enjoyable, but it's the same stories. And so if you want executives to come, if you want to attach agility to those areas of the organizations which are the current constraints, it's not IT, it's finance. But a finance manager is not going to come along to an Agile conference. So we sort of talked each other into, well, let's create a conference. And so we did. This was the one that was in New York in February last year. Now that was such a huge success that fast forward, it came to a point when my involvement in the community and the demands of the community were, let's create something more than just a single event. Let's bring the community together. And that's what we're doing, and that's what we've done, both in terms of the Institute and the Business Agility conferences, plural, because there's now going to be multiple around the world. So our focus right now is, of course, the one in New York in March.
Right. Awesome. Yes, that was actually the first question where I wanted to reach, but I needed all that background. Thank you so much. Okay, so what is your plan with this conference? Just the conference and having people under same umbrella, exchanging ideas, listening to stories and learning, or there is more to it?
So we have a unique format, and we've done this very deliberately because this is an advanced conference. This is not a beginner's. You're not going to learn about Scrum or Kanban here. So what we're trying to do is put together a position where, as a community, you can come together and learn from your peers. So 50% of the conference is from the front of the room, right? We call these the art of the possible, right? So 20-minute stories from leaders, experts in the field, executives, practitioners, thought leaders who are doing this work today, right? 20 minutes, one story, very succinct. And then after every 3 stories, we break for a deep dive. And the deep dive is where you share and you have that conversation with the people around you. So tables of 10, we've put a facilitator on every single table. So about 40, 45 facilitators this year. And the facilitator's job is to pull out your story and your colleague's story and the other person who's sitting beside you who you've never met before, their story, and get everyone to share. So it goes from this art of the possible down to, what are you going to do on Monday morning? How are you going to make it real? Right? And so that fundamental interaction is why we created this event. It's so people can learn from each other.
Ah, okay. How beautiful. Because actually, this is what happened with all the conferences, that majority of people either network or, they're just sitting and listening to the talks which are happening. So, yeah.
Well, we're trying to do both. Come, network, share your story, learn from each other.
Yeah.
Right?
And then the important part is not many people get to express, despite how much they know, despite even if they have learned from failure. Let's say they don't have a lot of success stories, but it is very important to listen to the failure stories as well. So yeah, and people don't get to share that as much as they want to, because definitely you cannot have 15, 20 speakers in an hour, and no one listening to anybody, just multiple tracks running. So yeah, got it. Awesome.
And you're completely correct. And it's because everyone's in the one room, because everyone's sharing their story. If I could have 400 people up on stage telling their story, I would, but I can't.
Yeah.
So this is how I get people to become a community. This is how we get them to come together and learn from each other.
Absolutely. So what after conference? Conference happened. What after that? Because once people are gone from the conference, they are excited, they are enlightened, they have content they want to use, but then they need support as well. They want to go back to something. So what after conference? What they can look up? Not everyone can reach out to you and get the solution. So what should they do?
I'm pretty accessible, so you can reach out to me, but no, so there's a couple of different, obviously we're building community. Community is the first pillar that the Institute is built upon.
Okay.
The second pillar is the body of knowledge, right? So we have, and we are building out a very comprehensive body of knowledge around business agility. It is community generated. So anyone can contribute, anyone can share their story. Once again, it's all about peer-based learning. And once you've got that and able to go out there and spread the word and share that, then we've got something pretty fantastic. So if you want more, there's always that, right? Because we're a community, right? We have local events. We're going to have online symposiums every 2 months. We're going to have multiple business agility conferences, physical or non-physical, on specific topics. Interested in agile talent? Well, there's going to be a symposium on that in February. Interested in agile marketing? We'll probably run a symposium of that in June, July. Okay. Interested in the utility sector? Well, at the end of the year, we'll probably do a business agility and utility sector event.
Wow.
Right? So there's lots of different ways that you can continue to be involved around business agility, through the events, through the online, through the Slack channels, you name it. It's about community and it's about outreach. That's our job.
Oh, okay. So that's what it is. Yeah. So then definitely there is a lot of support, even, once we are out of the conference, because we definitely need community and the body of knowledge and a platform where we can still continue interacting, getting response to our questions. So then how do they become member?
So the membership website will be launching in a couple of weeks. And literally it's just a single application form. You say, you need to prove to us why you're a member of the community, right? Are you a member of the community for education? Are you there to learn? Are you there because you've been working on it for years? Right? Why? Right? But to be honest, once you can, if you have a reason to be there, if you are interested in business agility, right, and it's more than just a buzzword to you, then you'll be welcome. Right? You will be a member, you will take part in events and contributions to the body of knowledge and other elements as they emerge. So yeah, businessagility.institute, very straightforward. There's a sign-up form at the moment, which if you send and leave your email address, as soon as the membership applications open, then we will let you know.
How nice. Thank you so much. That would be wonderful. Okay. So then one last question. So we have Business Agility Conference, which made us realize that we have a need for Business Agility Institute, and we have Institute membership enrollment coming up, and soon we will be globally connected under that umbrella. What do you think you would be bringing under that umbrella? As in, how do you ensure that you would not have only IT or software or agile experts there, but experts from various domains, who can talk about, as you were saying, HR, procurement, licensing, vendor management? How do you ensure that?
The community will grow organically and will grow by itself. So we will try and invite people into that. So I'll give you one example. For the symposium that we're running in February, the online symposium, we're going to go to the Agilists, the IT Agilists. We're going to say, come join, listen to 3 experts talk about agile talent, right? What does HR look like in an agile organization, in the next generation of companies? But if you want to come along to the symposium, it's free, but there's a cost. The cost is you've got to bring along one other person, and that person's got to be from HR, right? Someone who is a talent leader in your organization.
Wow.
And then we've got marketing, right? Agilists, come along, but the cost, bring along someone from marketing.
Nice idea.
By making people bring their peers, by making people expose others to some of these concepts, we're hoping to open out the Institute much broader than just, as you say, a very simple IT institute, which, to be honest, they already exist. So we don't need to be one of those.
Wow. It was really enriching. Thank you so much for your time. And I just have one question. So do you think it has got any health related issues? I hope it is not hazardous and no one gets hurt or anything when they, work on.
Shaving accident.
Okay. We still could not talk about making of Business Agility Conference. And I think we'll have to connect again for that.
I think this is a good conversation nonetheless.
Yeah. So I will reach out to you for a new time box, but I really enjoyed the entire conversation. I'm really, really thankful to you for taking out time and, taking up this interview.
Look, you're one of my favorite people, so I'll take any time I need to make these conversations happen.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wish you a good day ahead.
Thank you.